Hello and welcome to Cotswold Bees HQ and to this series of videos specifically designed for new beekeepers. Over the course of one beekeeping season, we're going to be looking at everything you need to know, from setting up the apiary, getting your bees, looking after your bees, and hopefully at the end getting some really nice honey to be able to eat. If you've got any suggestions for things you'd like to see, please don't hesitate to leave a comment below in the comments down here and we'll see what we can do. But in the meantime, it's a really fabulous day out there, so let's pop out into the apiary and see what we've got and how we've got things set up. So here we are out in the new apiary. Like all apiaries, it's a bit of a compromise. It's really nice and sheltered, which is great, but unfortunately it's also a little bit shaded and therefore the beehive doesn't get quite as much sun as I would like. However, shelter in this particular case is more important. And so it might seem a bit excessive at this stage to have a double hive stand, but this will prove really useful later on when my bees decide to swarm later in the year. I've got a national hive here ready to be used, and so what we'll do now is we'll take the hive to bits, see what all the pieces do and understand how a beehive actually works. So I've got a really solid double hive stand here on some slabs to stop the grass growing up underneath and interfering with the hive. On top of the double hive stand I've got my national floor, and this is an open mesh floor to enable any varroa mites in the hive to fall through, and it's got a tray on the bottom which I can pull out to inspect that and see how many mites I've got. When I actually put the floor onto the hive stand, I'm going to put it on at an angle so that if I do have another hive over there, the two hives will be at a slightly different angle and bees won't drift between the two hives. Here I've got my entrance block. It's got a large entrance and a small entrance. I'm going to start by putting a small nucleus of bees into this hive, and so giving them the small entrance block means they'll be able to defend it much easier. Entrance block just goes on there, and that's my floor in place. The next thing I'm going to do is put my brood box on, and here's the brood box which goes on here, and inside the brood box I've got the frames which the bees will build their wax on and make their home where the queen actually lays. Now, like most brood boxes, this has got 12 frames in here, but I'm not actually going to use 12 frames. I'm going to use 11 frames in the hive and what's known as a dummy board. This board at the end is a false end to the hive and means that the bees won't build comb in the gap, but it will enable me to get the frames out much easier without rolling bees over each other. The other thing I'm going to do is, the nucleus of bees that I'm going to put in here is going to be 6 frames of bees, and so I'm going to remove some frames here so I've got room to put those 6 frames in. So I'm actually going to take out these frames, keep them on one side to use later, and I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames left in, and that's all ready for my nucleus of bees when I get them. On top of there we have what's called a queen excluder, and this wire rack is sufficiently wide to allow the worker bees to go up and down, but keeps the queen in this area at the bottom. And this is going to go on top of here, and it's actually going to go at right angles to the frames. I've got my frames running this way, which is actually called the warm way. Some beekeepers like to have their frames running the other way, which is called the cold way. Beekeepers will argue all day and all night over which is best. I like this way because then I can work my hive from the back. So my queen excluder is going to go on like this. On top of the queen excluder I'm going to have a super, and this is like a small brood box, but it's actually shallower, and this is where the frames are going to go, where the bees are going to put their honey. I'm going to keep this empty at the moment because once I put this on, I've actually got a feeder, and the feeder here will be for the new bees when they go in, and I'll put some liquid feed in here just to help them get underway. So here's my feeder, and we'll see how this actually works when I put the bees in. Then I've got my crown board with these 2 holes in for feeding. Your crown board will probably come with these little devices in called porta bee escapes. We need to take both of those out because we won't actually use those until we come to harvest our honey. So take them out, keep them on one side and make sure you keep them safe for later. and on goes the crown board. And finally I've got my roof, and here it is. I just put my roof on and there's my hive all ready for my bees, which I'm going to put in about a week's time. So with the apiary completely sorted, I'm back inside BHQ and ready for a nice cup of tea and a piece of cake. Before I do that, I just wanted to say, hope you enjoyed the video. Our next one will be on the equipment you need, and we'll be posting that very shortly. If you want notification of when we post these videos, please press the bell. And if you like the video, please give us a thumbs up, and hopefully you'll subscribe to the channel. In the meantime, I wish you very happy beekeeping, and let's hope for a really great summer.